Hello, welcome to Global Business, the program that takes you into the business world and tries to transform your understanding about it. I am Imewore Ohiemokai. Now, today on the program, we shall be looking at power, looking at stable power. Now, when you think about Nigeria, especially when you know that we have just celebrated Inauguration Day, Democracy Day, and now we are into the real administration. That's the second term of President Muhammadu Buhari. So when you think about the first 4 years and the next 4 years, what do you think should be a priority for President Muhammadu Buhari? For me, I will say power. Yes, stable power can turn a lot of dirt, a lot of nonsense that is in this country called Nigeria into wealth. And so we'll be talking about that today on the program with Bode Sowunmi, a power and energy analyst and expert. Of course, we know that the power situation in Nigeria is something that we have been looking at and trying to solve for the last almost 60 years, and we have still not gotten it right. Will President Muhammadu Buhari get it right? What does he need to do to get it right? That's what we'll be speaking with Bode Sowunmi on Talking Point. Of course, we have other segments of the program, and so you have to sit back, relax, and let's do business. talking point of global business. Like I told you earlier, we're talking with Bode Shoni, who's an energy expert and analyst too. So we're looking at the power issue, energy in Nigeria, electricity. How do we get to that point where we can say that we are truly satisfied, at least we have enough or stable power? Bode, welcome.
Thank you.
We've talked these issues on power for many times. I mean, you've been on this program before and you've talked about it. But let's look at it again, because we can never stop talking, because that's the best we can do. Looking at the power sector, energy sector, basically electricity, what seems to be the challenge? What are the challenges that are bedeviling that sector, that are holding it down?
I think there's a need to first dimension the problem. In the process of dimensioning the problem, we'll separate the things that are similar with a view at solving the problem. You know, like I said, it's basically if you come into a room and the whole room is scattered, you want to first group items that are similar. You group clothes this way, you group furniture that way, you group shoes this way, with a view of starting to now arrange. Now, if we look at the power sector as a sector of the energy industry as a whole, what basically we had is that for the purposes of the privatization, it was broken down into three: generation, transmission, and distribution. The generation component of it was privatized separately. The distribution component was quasi-privatized privately, and the transmission component was separated. The first problem with that as a whole is that it allows room for blame trading. So if the generation component is not doing its work well, you can actually blame the transmission component and say you are not actually carrying what we're doing. And since you are not going to be at the junction to fuel the electricity that is going into the transmission, you're going to listen to this and listen to that. The same thing when you get to the distribution arm of it, they could also have some things to say. So the first thing is that amongst the stakeholders, there is an issue of cooperation and trust. That's the first issue. Then you're now going to look at the issue of the economics of the product itself. So we're selling electricity, which in this case, to a general public, but we are selling it at a price that is below the cost of production. And that is rooted in the fact that for a long time, electricity had been a social service that was provided by government. Even now, it's still a social service. The whole idea behind privatization is that the private sector people who have a greater capacity to run a more efficient business than government can run the sector in a more efficient way, thereby freeing the capital that government will have invested in power into other areas of infrastructure. That was the whole thinking.
So you are saying that we're still paying less without government subsidizing, even for the private sector.
Yes.
We are still paying less than the cost of production of electricity.
Yes, that's the truth of the matter. That's
So,
the truth of the matter. And it's not difficult to compute, because if you check how much it costs you to run your generator, whether it's I pass my neighbor or it's a diesel generator for 24 hours, and compare it with the amount that you pay NEPA for 24 hours, you see that there's a significant difference.
Look, but many people will want to challenge you on that, especially knowing the fact that the power industry, it's in bulk. We're talking of bulk now, and there is this belief that when it's bulk, it's less than when you're doing one generator and all that. But when you're generating in bulk, it's supposed to be less.
Well, you're talking about economics of scale now.
Yes.
But the issue is, even if it's going to be less,
how less?
You understand? Because What I'm saying is that if you check the differential in cost between a generator and the electricity, sometimes can be as much as 10. So even if it's going to be less by virtue of the economics of scale, by how much? And then it now comes to some of the other issues like this amount that is actually being produced. We are producing about 3,000, 3,500, 4,000 megawatts. At the point of privatization, the stakeholders, the discos, were told that there will be that 5,000 megawatts will be made available to them. So it is on the basis of that 5,000 megawatts that the price was computed. That's the MITO. The MITO is the tariff methodology. I mean, the methodology is to compute the tariff. But even at that, they have never gotten the 5,000. They've been getting less, and between 3.5.
So the story we hear that these distribution companies or discos are not even able to distribute what they have been given is not true, because we hear the stories that the Gencos have given them, and the distribution companies don't have enough capacity to distribute what has been given to them.
Well, let me put it this way: it's both yes and no. So, and I'll try and explain. There are certain times that the feeder stations, which is where the receiving end is reduced in capacity by weather elements. Sometimes it can be rain, where some of the some of the equipment within the feeder station goes down. Maybe 2 or 3 feeders go down to out of about 3 or 5. Now, the challenge is this: that moment or that period when the feeder station is down, electricity is still available via the transmission backbone, but
it cannot be distributed.
It cannot be received for distribution because there's a component. So during those periods, the distribution company may not want to pay for the cost of electricity. Obviously, because they're not receiving it.
But they expect the consumer to pay.
No, but the consumer too doesn't get electricity.
Especially those who are on estimated billing.
No, estimated billing is not saying you should pay for what you don't have light. That's what estimated billing says. Estimated billing says you are being paid an estimation of what you have consumed,
which is whether there is light or not.
It's an estimation.
It's an estimation.
So, but the fact of the matter is that if you feel that the estimation is untoward, not right, there is actually a process for addressing it, which is something Nigerians don't actually do because there's a regulator, NERC, that exists. There's even the customer service of the disco, because people complain about estimated billing. They've not even approached the disco and say that this bill that you have given me, I don't feel is right. So when the disco says, okay, this bill that I have, which is estimated, which you feel is not right, I think is the accurate cost, then you can now go to a higher authority, which in this case is the regulator. But rather than people engage in the system, people just want to complain. And the fact is that Nigerian systems are not perfect. There's no system anywhere is perfect, whether it is health, whether it is sports, whether it is finance, it is imperfect. But it is our continual engagement of the system that haunts the system and makes the system what we want it to be. So even for those who are giving estimated bills, they have a right to actually challenge it, because basically if they come to your house and you have 5 air conditioners, they will assume, because they're trying to estimate, that maybe the air conditioners are on half of the day, so maybe 12 hours out of 24 hours. They will assume that your deep freezer is on maybe 20 hours out of 24. They will assume your fridge is doing some of these things. It is based on those components that estimations are done. But obviously, it is not everybody. You may have a whole week, maybe you even traveled, you understand, where those things are not on and all that. That is now where constructive engagement comes in. Now you now need to engage with the disco in this case and say these are the facts of the matter. But when those things are not done, what you have is winking in the dark.
Anyway, this has using your words. There's in dimensioning these challenges. You have the consumer having his own challenges with estimated billing and lack of meter, or there is no metering in for the consumer. Then you have the discos and the gencos. So these three, gencos, discos, government, consumer, they are all stakeholders in this whole thing. And you have identified trust, lack of trust among these four stakeholders. And you've also identified the issue of cost of production and paying value for what you are getting.
Value for money.
Value for money. Now, beyond all this, let us look at the technical issues. Are our discos and gencos, do they have enough technical capacity to handle Nigeria's power issues?
There's nothing complex about the technicalities in power. The problems of Nigeria's power is not technical. The problems are not technical. There are people who are very well established, who have been successful everywhere else. I mean, Engineer Dele, who is the deputy MD for Ibadan Disco, retired from NEPA as an executive director. When he retired from NEPA, he worked in the state of Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, and he worked with the transmission company for that state. And he was able to plan their network 5 years ahead to the extent that they gave him an award. The only reason he came back was to also head the Ibadan Disco, and they told him that anytime he's ready, they're able to use it. Power technology has not significantly changed over 100 years. Transformers that we used before uses basically, I mean, there are improvements in terms of cooling systems and all that, but the technology, the science behind it remains the same.
When I'm talking of technical, you are looking at the human resource. I'm looking at even the equipment.
That's what I'm saying. Even the equipment.
Do we really? Because you just talked of a feeder. When a feeder goes down,
yes,
probably because of atmospheric pressures, you ask yourself, does rain not fall in the US? Does rain not fall? Are there not heavy storms every other place? Does it always affect the electricity of that place?
Storms can affect if there's a hurricane, it will affect.
That's even at extreme. Yeah. And we don't have hurricanes in Nigeria. Yeah, just a minor storm. I'm trying to help you because I'm trying to help you in dimensioning this. Because the truth about it is that there's a popular joke that you see on social media. It says, rain falls for 1 day and the power company uses 3 days to dry their wire.
Well, some things are out of ignorance. You understand? So let's put it in perspective. The issue with respect to equipment is about funding. The issue with respect to transmission, whether transmission losses, is also about funding. The issues with respect to additional generation is about funding. Everything is about funding. It is not cheap funding. We are talking infrastructure here. It's not cheap funding. So, if you are a CEO for a distribution company, Disco, you have this certain amount of money that you can spend in capex. Within that amount of money, you need to maintain your already existing dilapidated equipment. You need to pay for meters. You need to plan for the future. You need to buy new equipment. You need to go to areas that are not served. It's not within an unlimited amount of money. It's within a certain limitation of money. Which is why when everything comes to the liquidity in the sector, that's why you always hear people talking about the liquidity in the sector, whether it is foreign investors and all of that, and the fact that people want government, who is actually a 40% shareholder in all the discos, to actually support their shares with the funds that it originally promised, which is not a reality today. So if the funds that were available that were supposed to were sufficient for the discos, the way they will spend money will be different. In speaking with one of the CEOs of the discos, with respect to the metering issue, and what he basically said was that there's an aspect of the metering discussion, debate, that is missing from public discourse, which is the fact that meters are part of capex, capital expenditure for them. The challenge with that is that the discos can only spend a certain amount. There's a cap on what they can spend on capital expenditure, because they don't want them to go into excess. Then they want their they want their capex to be recoverable. So if meters, which is not critical to their own functioning in terms of how they function as an organization, they cannot be expending most of their money there. So they can only limit a certain amount of money monthly that will go into funding of meters. It is that discussion that they've had with the stakeholder, that they've had with the government, that either you will increase our capacity, our capex spend, so that we can spend more money on meters, or you look for a different way for which meters can be funded. And that is what came about. That is the origin behind MAP. So the idea is that through the consumer, the meter will be paid for. When the meter is paid for, then the consumer will get reimbursed, and then that aspect of metering can be taken out of the equation, and the whole complaint about estimated billing and all of that will no longer be in the frame.
I think we have just scratched the surface of this issue of power, and probably you'll be back again to talk about it. Thank you very much. Bode Shomi is a
pleasure is on mine.
Energy expert and analyst, and we'll be looking at the power industry, the challenges in the power industry, and of course, looking at how, of course, to make it work. Let us make it work. That's Talking Points for today. Join us next week. The program continues. Standing under the sun in Abuja, and so many people say that the sun in Abuja, especially in the northern part of the country, can actually give us solar power. What do you think? You've heard Bode's prescription. Do we do an energy mix of solar, hydro, and coal? Do we just stick to one? Well, Bode has given his prescription. What is yours? What will the government take? How will it work? That's what we'll be looking at, of course, as the weeks, as the months, as the years go by. It's 4 years to go for President Muhammadu Buhari. How will he tackle the power situation, especially as there has been no significant impact in the last 4 years? We will see. That's Global Business this Monday. Join us again next week. I am Imewore Uhyomokai, and I hope you love doing business with me, because I always love doing business with you.